Much of my real estate success comes from having a good property manager, which is in no way easy to come by. And believe me, I've been on both sides of it. My manager before this one stole money from me, cheated my tenants, and ended up suing me for a sum well into the six figures. I'll share with you all the details coming up. Hey there, my name is Steven Spicer, and it's my goal to help you invest smarter. Whether that's with real estate or stocks, I want to share with you my experience to help you on your journey. And don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you don't miss any of this value. If you'll bear with me for a moment, I'd love to share with you my mixed history with property managers. It'll show you that this is not an issue to take lightly. These are lessons that would have saved me tens of thousands of dollars if I had known them and taken them seriously a decade ago. I'm going to take you through my story, my personal experiences, and then I've put together a quick list of tips to help you determine if you've found a good property manager that you can trust. And if you won't bear with me for my story, well then just use the detailed timestamps that I always carefully put together for you down there in the description. So here it goes. I purchased my first rental property in my hometown in 2008. I was in college during that time, an hour away from this property. I was coming up on weekends and some evenings to take care of my landlord duties, but I quickly realized that that wasn't going to be sustainable, or at least not the best use of my time from an investment perspective. So I started looking for a property manager. Now the problem with my hometown and many cities that have the types of properties that I seek, that I've outlined for you before, is that there aren't very many property management companies around, if any. In this case, there weren't any. So I found a friend that was pretty handy to manage my rental for me. It worked out well because he also had an interest in investing in rentals himself in the future and wanted to get a feel for it. He did a fine job. The following year, I purchased a sixplex, and this became a pretty steady part-time job for him. With 7 units, there was pretty much always something that needed to be repaired or dealt with. But about a year after that, my manager, we'll call him manager number 1, moved. I had just started my full-time job as a financial advisor. I was putting in more than 80 hours a week there. I couldn't handle those rentals back home. I hadn't realized how much I'd been depending on it. Once again, I asked around at all the real estate firms and no one wanted to take on any property management duties. And honestly, unless you're handy yourself and would be doing repairs, thus making money from that side of it as well, I can understand the lack of interest.
Cripes, Kathy, fine, you've got a sale.
What?
Oh, hooray, a rental. I just made $12.
Why I gotta be a Kathy?
So I did what they tell you to do, and what I'm about to tell you to do when we get to the tips. I asked around. I found somebody who was currently managing a bunch of rentals for somebody else. He seemed to have just enough time to add mine into the mix. It appeared to be a perfect fit. The problem was solved. I was desperate. Manager number 2 was hired. I was distracted that following year, always scrambling to catch up with what was going on with my rentals. My books, keeping track of who had paid me and what my expenses were constantly behind. It was bad. There was a lot of negligence on my part as I was distracted being newly married, starting my new career and moving into my new house. A lot happened in that year. So much of my problems that arose out of that year come back to me and my negligence. I definitely could have seen some of the warning signs if I had been paying more attention. Like I said, this experience taught me a lot. And although it's a little embarrassing for me to share all of this with you, I hope hearing how bad I let this get will help you avoid some of these issues yourself. It wasn't until I got a call one day in 2011 that I was forced to renew my focus on my rental properties. I even remember exactly where I was because this call set in motion a series of events that played out over the following 3 years that forced me to become a better steward of my assets. I was 24 years old when I got that call from manager number 2 saying he had fallen off the top of one of my units, a 2-story building. He said he was messed up pretty bad. He sent me some pictures. They were gruesome. He was. He was calling to tell me that he'd be out of it, bedridden for a while. I felt terrible. I for whatever reason, felt responsible, whether I should have or not. I told him that, of course, he could take off as much time as he needed to let me know how else I could help, and that I would deal with the rentals for the time being. Later that day, he called me again, just to make sure that I had insurance on that building. I said, of course. He said he wasn't going to file a claim, but he was just curious. He thought his insurance would be enough to cover everything. I told him to do whatever he needed to do. Well, it didn't take him long. The next day, he asked me to see about that claim against my insurance. So I did. They informed me that there was no way insurance would pay out on my end, since I was in no way negligent. Well, the nuances aren't important here. I mean, it went back and forth a whole bunch between me, manager number 2, and the insurance company. Manager number 2 didn't like that answer. So, under the instruction of his ambulance chaser lawyer, he sued me. At the age of 24, while I was gone working, my wife, sitting at home alone, was served with papers for a multiple 6-figure lawsuit. I'll spare you the details of the proceedings and the time and money wasted over the following 3 years as this thing drug out for what felt like forever. Here's the Cliff Notes version. Turns out he didn't fall off my roof. He hurt himself severely somewhere else and just blamed me because he assumed that I had insurance on that property. Nothing personal, just thought that he could get money from my insurance company. This all became obvious during his deposition when he entirely changed his story from the one that he had told me and a handful of others. And to think, up until that point, which was about a year into all of this, I believed him and I felt super bad. His own lawyer even confessed confidentially that he knew that he had been making the whole thing up. To make this worse, as my lawyer and I interviewed the tenants trying to understand what happened, if anything, it became clear that for months he had been pocketing some of their rent payments for himself and overcharging them in some cases. Again, I should have been paying closer attention. That's on me. So at this point, as this was all settling out, I had to find a solution. I had way too much going on in my life to be able to handle all of those rentals an hour away all by myself. I had to have help. I didn't want to give up my rentals because they had been providing me with some cash flow over the years, even despite those problems. And I knew the potential they could have in the future. Now I got lucky here with what happened next. Not with what just happened, but with what happened next. And I know my situation is unique. That's part of the reason for this video because I want to be fully transparent with you about all of the details that I've been sharing with you and that I'll share with you in the future. You see, my brother-in-law had just graduated high school. He'd been working for a contractor for years, so he was more than qualified to help with many of the issues that come up, including roofing, plumbing. The kid was pretty handy. He was also confident and well-spoken, a national qualifying debater during his high school years, so he was good with handling tenants. He needed work, and I needed a lot of help. He stepped in, and we worked side by side for a while as I tried to get everything back in working order. I realized that he was the perfect candidate for the job. Now, by this point, I had enough obligations like this in my hometown to justify a full-time position, so that helped me out here. But I didn't think that would be enough for him. He was overqualified and too ambitious. So I offered him partial ownership in my personal real estate holdings. I had identified the ideal person for the job, and I gave up some equity to lock him in as a partner and get him excited about growing our holdings. So anytime you hear me say we or our when referring to our rentals, that's what I'm talking about. Considering my circumstances, and more specifically, where I want to focus my time, that was one of the best decisions I've ever made. The following few years, while I was raking in excess cash flow from my job, we were acquiring several properties a year and having a lot of success. Now I understand this story, that my unique experience will likely not directly apply to anyone else, but it's the only experience that I have. And it's a big part of my success today, and I want that to be clear. I want to be honest with you and transparent with you. Specifically, he consistently gets us above market rent rates. Our vacancies are low. He's quick to respond to tenants and extremely handy, keeping them happy. He knocks out roofing, plumbing, and many of those other major projects that sometimes come up for half of what I could get another contractor to do it. Remember the repairs on our last video coming in at half our projections? Well, he's why. So coming up with a creative deal to bring him in as a partner and not just a property manager, specifically giving up some equity while still paying him that standard 10% management commission, for me, it's been well worth it. But I get that's not going to be the case for everyone, at least not at first. So if this is possible for you, here's the 6-step process that I recommend you go through to find that perfect property manager for you. And this is what we'll be doing whenever we start to expand into areas that are outside of manager number 3, my partner's range. Step 1, and this is essential. You have to scroll down and click that like button. No, really, the first step is to find other landlords in the area where your properties are. Network with them, get to know them. This will be helpful for you anyway, especially if you're just getting started in an area. These people may have years, sometimes decades of experience with different contractors, different rental contracts, maybe some of the tenants that might end up trying to rent from you, and different property managers. Some of them won't use managers, but some will. And this will be one of your best sources of information and credibility, these first-hand accounts. But don't stop at just one. Ask around, especially if you're in a bigger city and there are a lot of options. See what all they do for them. See what their fees are. Figure out what complaints the landlords have with them, if any. This will be your best resource for finding a property manager and many other things going forward. Especially if you're young, you may be nervous to reach out to a more experienced rental owner, but when you do, I think you'll find that most would be more than happy to help out a young upstart. So once you have a list of 3 or 4 contractors from these credible sources, step 2, find out as much as you can about them. See what rates they're getting on the properties that they're managing and how those compare to the average for the area. Are they getting those above market rates like we talked about? What are their vacancies? How much do the landlords end up paying each month for repairs? You should even go check out the work for yourselves. See how they advertise. Visit some of the properties that they manage to see if they're well maintained. Step 3, interview several of them. Are they well spoken? Would you, as a tenant, enjoy interacting with them? As you narrow your search, you may even ask to speak with some of the tenants. Do the tenants feel like their complaints are addressed? How long does it take for a repair or maintenance issue to be fixed? Is the building clean? Is the building quiet? Does the tenant plan on signing a new lease? Why or why not? These questions will help you decide if the current tenants are happy with management's performance. Step 4. Of course, you want to make sure that they have the appropriate licenses, which will vary by state. Step 5. Once you've narrowed it further, consider the terms that the different property managers will work into your contract with them. Who would be your main contact? The manager directly or someone on their team? Make sure that you're able to communicate with the property manager through various means like phone and email. Figure out how much they charge for their services. Make sure any fees are documented. And then make sure those fees are within the average for other managers in the area. Beware of fees that are too high or too low. Either could be a red flag. How many days notice does the property manager require to terminate the relationship? If you aren't satisfied with their services, it's important that you're able to terminate your contract within a month or 2, which will give you enough time to find a replacement. How are maintenance and repairs handled? For example, are repairs outsourced? And do they charge a percentage fee on top of the cost? How much of a retainer does the property manager require for emergency repairs? Will they only call you if the repair costs more than the retainer? And are you okay with that? All of those terms. When should you expect to receive the tenant's rent check each month? Will it be direct deposited or will you receive a check in the mail? Will the property manager be responsible for keeping the tenant's security deposit or will you? How will the manager deal with delinquent tenants? What are their eviction proceedings? Ask them to describe their process in detail. Make sure you understand it. Make sure the tenants will understand it. Finally, step 6. After running through this process with a few of these candidates, you'll likely be leaning toward one of them. Here are a few additional considerations. These are regarding their rental contracts that you may want to run through with them before making your final decision. How are late rents handled? Is the process clearly written? And will the tenant understand the consequences? Who will the tenant call with questions? Sometimes property managers have different contacts for leasing questions versus maintenance issues. Just make sure that you have a thorough understanding of the expectations of each party involved here. The tenant, the property manager, and yourself, the landlord. If your properties aren't in a location with multiple options, like I just outlined, you might be out of luck. Or, like me, You may just have to try to create your own luck. Just learn from my mistakes and don't take this part of building your real estate empire lightly. Finding a good property manager that you can trust is not easy. Devoting extra effort in the beginning to thorough due diligence can save you hours of headaches later on. And if you find a really good one, like I have, it can pay dividends for you in the years to come, freeing up your time and energy to build another business or to research stocks. So if you're trying to invest smarter and you'd like to learn from an experienced and practicing professional, I hope you'll subscribe and click that notification bell. I hope this video helped. I wish you all the best. Take care.